Jace Maris didn't crash on purpose, though he had to admit, statistically speaking, this was getting embarrassing. His ship, the Wayfarer's Folly, coughing smoke like a chain-smoking asteroid miner, spiraled through the sky of Kirellin 9 in a blaze of noise and regret. Warnings blared in 6 languages, one of which had been extinct for 100 years. He smacked the dashboard. It only made the console scream louder. "I get it, you're dying. You don't have to be dramatic about it." The Folly answered by cutting all thruster power mid-plummet. For a second, he experienced the kind of weightlessness that poets might have called freedom, but Jace just called, "Oh no." The forest rushed up to meet him in a blur of tangled violet trees and sparkling clouds of pollen that looked alarmingly sentient. Branches slapped the ship like nature itself was offended, and finally, blessedly, it crunched into the undergrowth with a sound like a dozen angry robots being stepped on. Silence fell, thick and buzzing. He blinked. "Still alive," he whispered to no one. 10 creds say the coffee machine didn't make it." The cockpit door hissed open at an angle it wasn't designed for. Jace wriggled out, boots hitting the mossy ground with a squelch. The air smelled like cinnamon and static. The sky overhead was green, as if the planet hadn't gotten the memo about how skies worked. Kirellin 9, according to his half-dead nav system, was officially classified as uninhabitable, which in space pilot terms meant someone will try to live there anyway, probably with chickens. He scanned the area, checking for hostile fauna, sudden cliffs, or screaming locals with pitchforks. All clear. Then he noticed it, just beyond the wreckage. Something shimmered in the underbrush. Not gold, not tech. Blood. Glowing, bioluminescent, and trailing off into the jungle like a neon invitation to get murdered. "Wonderful," he muttered. "I crash, and now it's treasure hunt, but with more bleeding." Grabbing his emergency med pack, his sidearm, and a half-eaten protein bar, priorities, Jace followed the trail. It led him deeper into the forest, past singing vines and trees that turned to watch him. Something hissed from a branch, then scuttled away, cursing in a language he didn't recognize. Every now and then, the blood would pulse faintly, like it was alive and very annoyed. Eventually, he found her. She lay against the base of a tree that looked like it had grown out of a coral reef, curved, shimmering, almost bone-white. The figure at its roots was slumped, breathing shallow. She wore armor cracked down the chest plate, one leg twisted awkwardly beneath her. A long, elegant rifle lay beside her like a loyal pet. Her ears were long, not elf long, but alien royalty with excellent fashion sense long. Her skin shimmered faintly in the ambient glow of the forest, like polished pearl beneath bruises and grime. Her eyes, when they snapped open, were a shade of burning silver. "Stay away, human," she said. Jace blinked. "Okay, first of all, rude. Second of all, you're bleeding more than my last credit report." The rifle came up with surprising speed. She didn't point it at him directly, more like threat adjacent. He took a step back, hands up. "I'm not here to finish the job. I'm here because my ship decided to play chicken with the atmosphere." She studied him, the barrel of her weapon trembling just slightly. "I don't need your help," she hissed. "You're leaking bioluminescence," he said. "That's either very cool or very deadly, depending on the species. Either way, it's dramatic, and I respect that. But if I don't patch that up, you're going to glow your way into an early grave." She tried to sit up. Failed. Her armor clicked and groaned like a dying droid. She collapsed back, wincing. Jace knelt, careful not to get too close. "Look, I've been accused of a lot of things, mostly by jealous customs officers, but never murder. Let me help." "Why?" she demanded. "What do you want?" "Lady, I just crash-landed on a planet where the plants side-eye me. I want a medallion, a hero's parade, and a strong drink. But I'll settle for not watching someone die today." She stared at him, long and hard. Then with a sigh that sounded like she was being forced to listen to bad jazz, she let the rifle fall to the moss. Jace approached, heart pounding. Alien royalty, definitely. Possibly dangerous, possibly booby-trapped. Possibly booby-trapped royalty. He examined her wounds, deep gash along the ribs, burn scarring on her thigh. No broken bones, but dehydration and fever were setting in. He started cleaning the wounds. "You've done this before," she murmured. "First aid?" "Yeah. I had a roommate in Flight Academy who kept trying to invent new cocktails. One of them exploded." "You're a soldier?" "Smuggler," he said cheerfully. "Failed businessman. Aspiring professional sandwich critic." Despite everything, she almost smiled. Almost. He wrapped her side, applied a healing salve that smelled suspiciously like garlic, and glanced at the deepening twilight. The sky above had started pulsing like a living organism. "We need shelter," he said, "and ideally something between us and whatever's hunting you." Her hand shot out, grabbed his wrist. Her grip was weak, but her eyes were fierce. "If they find you with me," she said, "you will die." He shrugged. "I crash on strange planets weekly. Honestly, this is just Thursday." "Foolish human," she whispered, letting go. "Thank you. Jace the Foolish, at your service." He lifted her gently. Awkwardly, really. She was light but armored, and he suspected one of her boots had a hidden knife that was now stabbing him in the hip. He carried her back toward the crash site, where he'd spotted a small cave tucked beneath a ridge. As they passed under strange glowing branches, she spoke again, her voice quieter. "Sarathi," she said. He blinked. "Is that a threat or your name?" "My name," she said, eyes closing. "Cool. I was worried it was the name of a poison tree I just brushed against." There was silence for a time. Then she muttered something in her language. Melodic, tired. He caught only one word he recognized. It meant idiot. He smiled as he walked. "Nice to meet you too, princess." The cave was smaller than Jace remembered. Or maybe it just seemed that way now, that he had a half-conscious alien princess draped across his shoulder like a particularly judgmental sash. The ridge above jutted out just enough to block the acid mist rolling through the trees, which hissed faintly as it touched moss and rock. The entrance smelled like wet circuits and something suspiciously spicy. He stepped inside, careful not to bump Sarithi's head on the ceiling. Again. "I'm starting to think you royalty types don't do gratitude," he said as he gently set her down on a patch of moss that hadn't tried to bite him yet. "At least pretend to be impressed I didn't drop you." Her eyes fluttered open, narrowed. "You smell like combustion fluid." "That's pilot cologne," he said. "Very exclusive." She looked away, muttering something under her breath in her native language. He was 90% sure it was profanity and 10% sure it was poetry. Either way, the tone was withering. He began unpacking what supplies he had salvaged from the wreck. His emergency kit consisted of one thermal blanket, a cracked solar lantern, 3 protein bars, all beef-flavored because the universe was cruel, and a flare gun that doubled as a toaster. The rest was spread somewhere across the forest, presumably being digested by enthusiastic flora. Sarathi winced as she shifted. He offered her water from a filtration capsule. She eyed it like it might explode. "It's not poison," he said, "unless earth water counts as a bioweapon to your species." She took a sip. Either it wasn't toxic or she had an incredible poker face. He switched on the lantern. Soft yellow light filled the cave, casting shadows across the stone. Outside, a low screech echoed through the trees. He looked up. "What are the odds that's a friendly bird?" Sarathi didn't answer. Her eyes were closed again, breath shallow. Her energy was running out fast. "Okay," he muttered, pulling off his jacket and tucking it behind her head. "Let's play nurse until you're back to shooting at me." The forest sounds beyond the cave weren't comforting. Something howled, wetly. Something else chirped in reply, then exploded. He tried not to think about it. Instead, he adjusted Sarithi's bandages and checked her fever. "You know, I never thought I'd be babysitting royalty in a cave while alien wildlife auditioned for horror films outside." Her eyelids twitched. "You talk too much." "It's a defense mechanism. I used to do it during exams. Distract the instructor. Forget the panic. I was trying to pass out. Don't let me stop you, but if you start glowing again, I'm installing dimmer switches." There was a beat of silence. Then, faint, almost imperceptible, she made a sound. Not quite a laugh. More like the ghost of one. Jace grinned. Progress. Later, after she drifted into deeper rest, he sat at the cave's mouth with his sidearm on his knee, watching the mist slither past like gossip. The trees outside shifted. One of them had eyes, he was now convinced, and possibly teeth. He fiddled with a broken comm device, the one part of the folly he hadn't been able to kick back to life. Its cracked screen blinked sporadically, like it was trying to remember how to work. No signal, he muttered. No ship. No idea what's hunting her. But hey, at least I've got a cave and a sarcastic princess with glow-in-the-dark blood. Living the dream. As if on cue, the cave ceiling trembled slightly. Something above them shifted its weight. Is sarcasm a summoning ritual on this planet? He raised the sidearm, inching toward the opening. A long shadow passed by, accompanied by a soft chittering. Whatever it was, it had 6 legs in the mood of a disgruntled accountant. He slid back inside and sealed the entrance with a portable auto-seal field. It buzzed faintly, flickering twice before stabilizing. Not perfect, but it would buy them time. Morning on Kirillin 9 wasn't bright. It was more like the forest collectively agreed to turn the opacity dial up a notch. Soft, greenish light filtered through the trees, making everything look underwater. Jace woke to the sound of coughing. Sarathi sat against the wall, pale but upright, drinking water and staring at him with the expression of someone who'd just discovered their emergency savior was also their last resort. "Good morning," he said, stretching. "How'd you sleep in the scenic murder cave? Your blanket smells like fear." "That's just my cologne again. Popular on Mercury." She didn't smile, but her expression softened half a degree. "You didn't leave," she said. "Well, I considered it. But then I realized I'd have to explain to the trees that I abandoned an injured alien noblewoman to die. I don't think they'd forgive me." She studied him. Her gaze was sharp, as if she were measuring something. After a long silence, she said, "You are very strange." "I get that a lot, usually right before being fined." Her armor was still badly damaged. He gestured to it. "Anything in there I should avoid poking? Traps? Cultural taboos? Self-destruct buttons?" "Number. But if you strip it without permission, I'll kill you." "Noted. Medical only. Promise." With some effort, she allowed him to remove a section of the plating and examine the wound beneath. The gash along her ribs had sealed somewhat, but the tissue was inflamed. He applied more salve and wrapped it again with steady hands. "You said your name was Sarathi, right?" She nodded. "You got a last name? Title? Galactic resume?" She hesitated, then said, "Sarathi Valerian, heir to the throne of 7 sons, commandant of the Starborn Fleet, keeper of the Celestial Flame." Jace blinked. "Okay, I feel underqualified to be touching your ribs now." She tilted her head. "And you are?" "Jace Maris, ex-pilot, smuggler, sandwich aficionado, and occasional crash test dummy." Despite herself, she chuckled. A real one this time. Software short, but unmistakable. He grinned. Outside, something let out a long, low roar. The cave trembled again. Sarathi reached for her rifle. "They're still hunting me." "Then we make a plan," he said, picking up the comm again. "And this time, maybe one that doesn't involve crashing." She looked at him, long ears twitching slightly, silver eyes sharp. "You're going to get yourself killed." "Probably, but if I die, I want it to be doing something stupid and noble, preferably with a cool soundtrack." Sarathi leaned back, exhaling slowly. "Foolish human." "Glad we're finally settling on a nickname." The comm device finally gave up pretending to be useful and died with a hiss and a spark that singed Jace's eyebrows. He sighed and tossed it gently onto the pile of other fried electronics. Moment of silence for Captain Static here, who bravely failed to send even one message. Sarathi didn't look up from where she was sharpening a blade made of some alloy that hummed faintly, like it disapproved of his jokes. "You are making noise again. Statistically, the more noise I make, the less chance I have of panicking in silence. It's a mental health thing. Statistically, the more noise you make, the sooner we are found and killed." He raised a finger. "Actually, if you include the local fauna, I'm about the 5th loudest thing in this jungle. One of those trees near the wreck has been singing jazz standards since sunrise." Sarathi's blade paused. "It is not singing. It is mimicking your nervous humming." Jace blinked. "I don't hum." She tilted her head. "You do." He frowned. "Do I sound good?" "No." He made a mental note to never be in the same room as an alien talent show panel again. They were on the move now. Surathi had recovered enough to walk with a limp, her armor patched with sealant in a strip of Jace's jacket. She didn't say thank you, but she hadn't stabbed him yet, which he was beginning to recognize as affection. Their destination was a downed orbital relay station she remembered from maps her fleet had used before her escape. It was their best shot at sending a real distress signal. If the tech inside hadn't been eaten by moss or fused with the spirit of a haunted vending machine. Jace scanned the path ahead with a handheld pulse mapper, which beeped twice before exploding into sparks. He stared at the blackened casing. It either found something or got offended by the terrain. "I warned you not to hit it with a rock," Sarathi said as she adjusted the rifle on her shoulder. "It was a gentle rock. Motivational." The trek was slow. Kirellan 9's forest floor shifted constantly, like it had opinions about where you should step. Every few minutes, something bioluminescent blinked at them. At one point, Jace swore the moss tried to pet him. "You're a walking buffet of curiosity," he told Sarite, as they passed a tree whose roots rearranged themselves into the shape of a chair, then politely dissolved. "This planet is definitely flirting with you." She gave him a sidelong glance. "I am carrying enough weaponry to turn a star cruiser into a crater." "That's exactly my type." He dodged a playful swipe of her blade, grinning. They paused at a clearing near midday, such as it was. The light filtering through the canopy remained eerie and green, and the air buzzed faintly with static energy. Surathi set her pack down with a sigh, her movement slower than she let on. "Rest," Jace said. "Doctor's orders." "You are not a doctor." "I've played one in several desperate moments." He handed her the last of their rationed water. She accepted it with a quiet nod, which in her language probably meant, "I suppose your continued existence is acceptable." Then she asked, "Why didn't you run?" He leaned back on a rock that immediately squelched. "You mean when I found a wounded, armed, glowing alien princess in the woods and she threatened to vaporize me? That's a Tuesday for me." She studied him. "You joke too much. You almost smile too much. We all have flaws." "I do not." "You just did." Silence stretched between them. Then she took a careful sip and said, "You would not have survived the courts of Valerian." "I wouldn't survive the gift shops of Valerian." They moved again after rest, the terrain sloping upward into broken rock formations, shaped like ancient monoliths. Strange symbols flickered along their sides, reacting to Sarathi's proximity. "These stones know you," Jace said, touching one. It zapped him. "Ow, they dislike me." "They were built by my ancestors," she said quietly. "This world was once part of the Empire." He whistled. "You guys left behind some dramatic lawn ornaments." They reached the edge of a cliff where the remains of the orbital relay tower jutted up like a broken spine. It was wrapped in creeping metallic vines and crowned with a dish half covered in crystalline fungus. Jace pulled out his scanner, which beeped twice and then died. "Gonna assume that means welcome." The climb up the outer skeleton of the tower was not built for humans with questionable upper body strength. Jace scrambled after Sarathi, who moved like she'd done this on fire and blindfolded. Inside the tower core, the remains of an ancient data system blinked faintly. Sarathi dropped to her knees, fingers dancing across holographic keys with practiced speed. "If I can wake the emergency beacon, someone might pick it up." "You mean someone friendly?" "I mean someone. We cannot afford to be selective." Jace winced. "Well, that's comforting." The system shuddered, screens flickering to life. A low whine built up in the floor, and something deep below the tower began to hum. Wrongly. Sarathi's expression tightened. "They laid a trap." "Define they." Her hands flew over the controls. "The hunters, those who chased me from the fleet. They left a sleeper AI here, buried in the subroutines. It's waking up." A grinding sound echoed through the tower, like a voice clearing a 1,000-year-old throat. "Can we shut it down?" "I can try. You can buy me time." Jace raised the sidearm. "How many evil programs can there be in one planet?" The walls around them began to shift, panels opening to reveal defense turrets that looked very awake and very trigger-happy. One of them tried to speak but only managed to blurt, "Unauthorized lunch detected." "I think it thinks I'm a snack." Sarathi shouted something in her language and slapped a glowing panel. The turrets paused. One exploded. The others turned toward the remains like they were offended. "Jace!" she barked. "On it!" He fired a plasma bolt at the nearest emitter, which fizzled and shut down. A second turret opened fire, narrowly missing his ear. "Definitely flirting!" he yelled as he dove behind a console. Sarathi finished her override. The hum dropped. The turrets shut down, one by one, collapsing into themselves like sulking spiders. Silence returned. Jace poked his head up. "Did we win, or is it just taking a nap?" "The distress beacon is live," she said, breathing hard. "Now we wait." He slumped next to her, covered in dust, gun still warm. "So, dinner?" She looked at him. "Do you ever stop talking?" "Only when unconscious." She shook her head. Then faintly, almost as if she didn't mean to, she smiled. And somewhere far above the clouds, something began to answer the signal. The relay tower groaned with mechanical unease, like it had just remembered how old it was and deeply regretted waking up. Jace leaned against a half-functional console, watching Sarathi work. Her hands moved with practiced precision, fingers dancing over flickering glyphs that didn't resemble any alphabet he'd ever seen, possibly because some of them were singing. "Are your computers supposed to hum?" he asked. "They are syncing with my neural frequency," she said without looking up. "The sound stabilizes the interface." "It's very soothing," he said, "if you ignore the part where the control panel just tried to lick me." She didn't respond, though her ear twitched in what he was starting to recognize as silent exasperation. He took it as encouragement. "So," he said, nudging a tangle of glowing wires with his boot, "who exactly are we hoping responds to the beacon? Friends? Frenemies? Space pizza delivery?" "Resistance ships," she said, "or those loyal to the Valerian legacy. If any remain, let's be optimistic. Maybe they bring cookies." The console beeped, sharp and mechanical, cutting the air like a blade. Sarathi stiffened. A hologram flickered into life above the panel, displaying a star field marked with shifting sigils. At its center pulsed a red beacon. "They've answered," she said. Jace squinted at the screen. "They who? The good kind of they, or the chase you across a planet kind?" Her fingers hesitated. "Unclear. The code is scrambled. Half royal, half mercenary." "Well, that's comforting. It's like ordering a ride and not knowing if it'll be a luxury shuttle or a warship with unresolved childhood trauma." She tapped more commands. The tower's internal systems shifted, and a soft tremor ran through the floor. "Someone is coming," she said. "But so are the hunters." He sat up straighter. "Oh, great. You're saying we RSVP'd to both the wedding and the ambush." Outside, the forest stirred. First, a low-frequency pulse vibrated the air. Then the shadows began to move. Trees leaned away. The mist pulled back. And somewhere in the distance, something bellowed in a voice that was not built for ears. Jace grabbed his sidearm. "That didn't sound like room service." Sarathi stood. "They have found us." A deep metallic crack split the air as the tree line tore open. A massive figure stepped into the clearing below the tower. An armored exosuit, 10 feet tall, bristling with weapons and bad decisions. Its plating shimmered with energy fields, and its visor glowed crimson. "Oh no," Jace muttered. "It's one of the ex-boyfriends, isn't it?" Sarathi didn't blink. "General Kravex, former commander of my father's vanguard, now a traitor." "So yes, definitely an ex." The voice that erupted from the mech's speakers was distorted, like someone chewing on static. "Surrender the air." Jace leaned toward the mic. "Which air?" "We've got several. Some are decorative." Sarathi pulled him aside with one hand, her rifle drawn with the other. "You cannot fight that. I can definitely irritate it." She tossed him a small device, spherical, blinking softly. "Distraction grenade. Use it. Then run." He caught it. "Are you planning something smart or something noble?" "I do not have the luxury of being smart." He hesitated, then nodded. "Just promise not to die. You still owe me a rematch in poker." She smirked. "You cheat." "I prefer the term creative statistics." Then the air exploded. Kravex launched a plasma blast toward the tower's upper ridge, and the beam sliced through the rock, sending shards raining down. Sarathi jumped, rolling across the floor, firing a shot that punched into the mech's shoulder plate with a burst of ion sparks. Jace bolted toward the side entrance, grenade in hand, heart doing gymnastics. He hurled the sphere just as the mech turned, and it detonated midair with a flash of light and a burst of discordant music. Earth jazz, loud and chaotic. The exosuit staggered, clearly unprepared for a full brass assault. "Score one for human culture!" Jace shouted, diving behind a fallen support strut. The relay tower shook as more blasts followed. Sarithi was a blur, vaulting over debris, firing with ruthless precision. The tower's AI joined in, activating old defense systems, some of which functioned with enthusiasm, some with confusion. One cannon fired paint. Another fired salad? "Why does this thing have a lettuce launcher?" Jace yelled. "Experimental crowd control," Sarathi called back. "It's working. I've never been so disoriented and healthy." Kravex advanced, shrugging off the hits. "You are alone," he growled. "There is no empire left." Sarathi's voice was calm. "Then I will rebuild it." The final console activated. A signal pulsed upward, punching through the atmosphere. Far above, something caught it, an object in orbit, then changed course. The relay tower screamed a warning. A countdown began, ancient code ticking toward zero. The whole structure was about to self-destruct. Sarathi froze. "It's a trap," she said. "The signal, it was programmed to overload the core." Jace's face fell. "Of course it was, because nothing on this planet wants us to not explode." Krevex raised his arm. "Then you will die with your legacy." Jace pointed upward. "Yeah? What about that?" A light streaked down from the sky, burning, silent, and fast. A ship, sleek, black-hulled, shaped like a dagger hurled by a god. It slammed into the clearing with a shockwave, deploying a barrage of flares and drones. Kravex turned. Too slow. The ship opened fire. The forest erupted in chaos. Drones swarmed the exosuit, hacking at its joints with beams and buzzsaws. The massive form stumbled, then dropped as a well-placed rail shot split its primary core. Krevex vanished beneath the wreckage. The ship hovered. Its ramp lowered. Figures descended. 3 soldiers in battle gear bearing the insignia of Valerian. One of them saluted. "Commander Sarathe," they said, "we received your signal." She stood motionless for a second. Then her voice, quieter than usual, said, "You're late." The soldier grinned. "Traffic," Jace coughed. "Hi, human. Just crashed, fought a mech, got tossed by salad. Any chance someone here knows how to fly a ship?" The soldier blinked. "You brought a native?" "He brought me," Sarithi said sharply. "He is under my protection." Jace straightened. "Did you hear that? I'm protected. I'm like an endangered species now." She walked toward the ramp. He followed, limping slightly. Just before boarding, she turned to him. "You don't have to come." He shrugged. "Do you have good food? Maybe showers?" "Yes." "Then I'm definitely coming. Besides, I think I'm developing a crush on your civilization." She rolled her eyes but said nothing. As the ship lifted off, leaving the shattered tower and smoldering forest behind, Jace looked out the viewport at the stars blinking into view. "You know," he said, "this might be the start of something really dumb." Sarathi replied, "It already is." The ship hummed with energy, polished and purposeful, every corridor designed with elegance and war in mind. Jace walked through it like a man who had accidentally wandered into a royal gala in hiking boots. The crew gave him the occasional glance, the kind you give to a stray dog that's inexplicably wearing sunglasses and carrying classified documents. "I don't think they like me," he muttered as a passing officer gave him a 30% bow and 70% glare. "They don't trust you," Sarathi said, striding beside him with her usual commander's grace and none of the forest grime. "You're a foreign element, loud, undisciplined, often bleeding. I prefer charismatically reckless. You tried to hotwire a medical pod because you thought it was a coffee machine. It looked like one, and to be fair, it did wake me up." She didn't smile exactly, but her expression eased. In the days since they left Curella 9 behind, things had changed. She walked straighter, carried herself like someone who remembered what power felt like. But she also glanced at him more, not just to issue threats. She listened. In her quarters, a modest room by royal standards, though it still had mood lighting and furniture that adjusted to emotional state, she briefed her advisors. They spoke of splinter factions, of rebellion, of what remained of her empire. Some bent a knee, others argued. Jace sat in the corner, chewing on something the galley swore was a protein snack and not a plank of compressed sorrow. After the third debate about tactical reintegration and fleet loyalty matrices, he leaned toward her and whispered, "Have you considered ruling by a musical number?" She didn't answer, but one advisor looked scandalized, which Jace counted as a win. Later, she found him alone in the observation deck, staring out at the stars like they owed him money. "You're quiet," she said. "I'm on a spaceship with alien royalty heading toward what might be an interstellar civil war. I've run out of jokes." "That's worrying." He glanced at her. "What happens when you get your empire back? You become empress of whatever, and I go back to, what? Smuggling cheese through customs? Crashing into new planets?" She didn't answer immediately. Outside, a comet streaked by. Burning, brief, beautiful. "When I fled," she said, "I believed everyone I loved would betray me. That loyalty was a currency, and mine had run dry. Sounds like how I lost my spot in a bar poker league. You risked your life. You followed me when you had no reason to. I'm very bad at choosing survival over curiosity." "No," she said softly. "You're very bad at pretending not to care." He blinked. "I cannot promise peace," she continued, "or that I'll rule without blood. But I will not forget who helped me rebuild from ash." He stood. "So what? I get a title? Royal assistant to her imperial grumpiness? You would be an envoy, my eyes, my voice among those who do not yet know our cause. That sounds dangerously close to responsibility. You've earned it." He looked at her, long and searching. "And if I say yes, then we start something new. Together," he smirked. "And if I say no, I'll throw you off the ship. Now that's the princess I remember." He stepped closer, lowered his voice. "I still think your royal armor needs a cape for dramatic exits." She raised an eyebrow. "You want me to look more dramatic?" "It's for the brand." She laughed, quiet, honest. And then she said, "Come with me." He followed her to the bridge. The crew was gathered. Stars spun around them. In the center, a new course was charted. The Valerian core systems, her home. She turned to them. "We have wandered, we have been broken, but we are not defeated. The flame lives on." Jace coughed. "You're forgetting to mention the part where a very handsome human helped to save the air." Someone in the back groaned. Someone else clapped reluctantly. She ignored him. "Today we return. Not as conquerors, as survivors." Cheers erupted. Weapons were checked. Engines burned. The ship surged forward, purpose in every motion. In the quiet after, Jace stood beside her. "So, you're going to fix a broken galaxy?" "Yes." "Need a co-pilot?" She didn't answer. She just handed him a star map, with coordinates handwritten in glowing ink, a language older than stars. He smiled. And as the ship jumped into light, Jace Maris, crash-prone smuggler, occasional fool, and now interstellar envoy to a reborn empire, finally stopped running.